speaking with Abdulaziz Alhazmi, Acting Director General of Saudia, and you are in town for the Saudi Arabian Cultural Mission Grand Festivities. Now, this is a big event.
Okay.
This is a whole weekend's worth of, and plus, both job fair for SACM
Right.
and the graduation event.
Right.
And we've covered it. Saudi U.S. Trade Group has always covered this annually. We have a strong relationship with the Saudi students here, and we know this is a big deal, and it's always kind of fun because a lot of our friends come into town, and we get to see them. I don't know how many. I think 12,000.
The graduates is going to be 12,000.
Yeah, which is extraordinary because just 4 or 5 years ago it was 4,000.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Saudia's involvement with this SACM celebration and what brings you here?
Okay, so Saudi being one of the leading organizations in Saudi Arabia in terms of employment, and again, the sheer number of students who are going to school here in the States is again a major customer for Saudi being an airline. So we come here, we are one of the major sponsors for the event through two venues. One is we are awarding some of the distinguished students with tickets on Saudi network and their choices. And also we're among the career day activity where we're looking for again bright Saudi students, being male or female, to join our organization.
Well, you refer to an interesting thing, and that is this extraordinary growth of number of Saudi students in the U.S. In the King Abdullah Scholarship Program is really an astounding initiative. I mean, tremendous financial investment, $4+ billion a year, I believe, and there are now over 100,000 Saudi students here and their families studying in the U.S. How has that impacted your service and what you've had to do to provide for this population?
I think one of the things, either through an increase of frequencies to the destination we used to operate, which is DC and New York, and then 31st of March we opened the third destination in the US, which is LA. So it is an expansion of the network plus an increase of the frequency to the existing network that we are operating to. We are also introduced another destination which is up north, the Toronto in Canada, and there is a small. Yeah. So it's now we are addressing also our partner in SkyTeam Delta to expand our presence within the US through a code share or through some kind of an marketing special agreements.
So can you tell us a little bit about, you've given us an idea of the Saudia growth in the Americas.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about internationally, how Saudia has grown, and in the mid-'70s you had Saudia had maybe 1 million passengers over the year. I mean, in 2014 you had 14 million in the first quarter.
Yeah.
What sort of internationally? What's your growth strategy?
And, our growth strategy is based on two. Plan. One is the organic growth of the network through our own direct operation, and the second strategy is through cooperation with our partners in. The network within the North American region is, as I said, is really to expand the reach itself, the destinations, and also to partner with our partner SkyTeam. Europe we used to operate through different strategy where we used to operate wide body equipments linking two cities in Europe, and it was not really the most productive way to operate. So now we are delinking our stations in Europe by operating non-stop from Jeddah and Riyadh with narrow body, then till the market develops, and then we operate wide body in those equipments. 2015, we are expecting to operate or to move to our new terminal in Jeddah,
Right.
which is we're looking really forward to. We are very excited to do, and therefore we're going to make it as a hub, a major hub operation, and linking Saudi Arabia with the rest of the world, and then utilizing the onward transit movement. So this is basically the strategy that we are expanding internationally.
Domestically, Saudi Arabia is opening up to more low-cost competition. I guess Qatar Air and Maha is coming in.
Yeah.
Flynas is already in.
Yeah.
How are you approaching the domestic market?
Domestic market is expanding, is growing.
Because of the sheer population growth of the country, the challenge within the domestic operation is it has not the fare itself, that the passenger is paying to travel from 2 points is controlled by the government, in the sense that it's not really, now, just to give you a feel, if you fly from Jeddah to Riyadh, which is about an hour and 20 minutes, with full services, including meal, newspaper, and so on, you pay about $80. And which is, you cannot find it anywhere in the world. So the domestic is increasing in terms of size. We expect that NAS and Mahab, by the way, it's a Saudi company owned by Qatar Airways, but it's at the end of the day it's a Saudi company, and Saudi Gulf. We are looking forward that they participate in the domestic, because today there is a gap of about 22 million seats that is not being provided. We ourselves as Saudi are operating at a very much high load factor of 90%, which is absolutely in the high side of in the industry. So we are looking forward for their participation in the domestic market.
Yes, the market is growing, and much more internal tourism, and obviously there's more business traffic. So you're right, there's a need for it.
And aside from that they take care of some of the demand that is there in the market, today Saudi has been a bit judged maybe harshly because we are the only operator in the domestic. So competition is good, not that they are only providing capacity, but at least it induces us in Saudi to improve our services, but it gives the customer a chance to compare Saudi services with the other carriers.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about profitability, because this is, you say that's a challenge with the fixed ticket prices. Since 2006, Saudi has sort of spun off six sub companies: catering, ground services, and I guess, can you tell us a little bit about how that has gone, that privatization effort? What remains in terms of to be done in terms of that strategy, and how you see it's going?
Yeah, as you said, pre-2006, Saudi was only one company which does everything basically. So the strategy that has been the privatization initiative, which came actually
from the government. It's a mandate by the government that we privatize the airline, so that the airline submitted, or Saudi Arabian Airlines submitted the plan for the Council of Ministers, for the Supreme Economic Council, which has been approved the way forward in terms of privatization. So it started first with spinning off the non-core activities into SBU, strategic business units, and then after we have done that, we started offering the public sector a chance to participate. So we have finished with the catering was the first units, where we have sold about 49% of the entity. Then the cargo, we have sold about 30% to private investor. The ground services, where we ourselves owned 75% in the company, and the rest of the other two ground handlers, the previous one on the 25%, the rest of the 25%. MRO, which is the technical part of the airline, has been sold over the last maybe six months with a 30% share. So those kind of initiatives, not only that it gives a reward, a financial reward to the airline, but the way I see it is really one will be able to figure out exactly how much we are paying for each activities, the major activities. We are dealing, even they used to be like peers and colleagues within the other companies, we are dealing into a business relationship where there is a specific SLA govern the relationship with the other company. So I think it's in the benefits of one, we are expanding our base in terms of the customers. Second, we are really now building a relationship with those companies as service providers, even if they are owned by the holding or the group, Saudi Arabian Airlines Group.
And you mentioned you previously COO with the COO,
Yeah.
the Saudia. How does that? What are the next steps for that?
I think this is the most, of course, as you know, at the end of the day, the small or the non-core activities, it's easy to privatize, it's easy to spin off. The difficult and the most difficult one is the airline itself. And the first step, since we have dealing the other service provider, now at least we expect a better, cost basis for their activities. For the airline, it is a government that it is a decision that eventually the government has to take, because there are a lot of commercial activities that goes on between the airline itself and the government agencies. There is the bilateral issue that has to be clean. So there are a bit more strategic decisions have to be taken by both the airline and the government in order really to set the time frame for that privatization. The mandate is there. It's only the timing that we are working.
The execution is much more complicated.
Very much, very much.
So we understand that Saudi is considering acquiring 50 more aircraft in 2014. Can you tell us a little bit about the composition of the fleet and how many of those new aircraft are going to be Boeings?
Well, since 2006, Saudi initiated a very strategic refleeting plan, where over the next, from 2009 to 2016, we will be acquiring 90 aircraft, a mix of, the Airbus and Boeing aircraft. We have received so far 74 out of those 90. Hopefully next year and the year after, we are expecting to receive our first 787 aircraft, where we have 8 aircraft in order. And so far as the 50, the term of reference, I think, came from somebody in the organization in a conference. It's actually what we are looking for. We are evaluating right now the need, because within the domestic, I think the need is for 30 to 40 aircraft that has to be acquired over the next 5 years, 2015 to 2020. For the international, we are still evaluating the number that is required. But again, at the end of the day, Saudi always has been a Boeing customer. Over maybe for the short range aircraft, 2006, we started dealing with the Airbus for the A320, A321.
Well, that relationship has been a big part of the U.S.-Saudi relationship. I guess the first DC-3 was given by...
Saudi started as an airline because of a gift from President Roosevelt to King Abdulaziz, which was, I think it was 27th of May, 1945. So that's how we started. So the strategic relationship is there. Actually, Saudi is a partner in As-Salam company, and Boeing is the major shareholder in that company. We in Saudi signed a sort of MOC, Memorandum of Collaboration with Boeing, to expand our strategic relationship in the training, in all type of training, plus the other, investment in our MRO.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Salam? Because that was one of the earliest
Offset.
sort of offsets,
Yeah.
exactly. And a lot of the criticisms early on was, these things can't ever be viable business entities. And can you, how is Salam a going concern? Is it a profitable concern? And how is it?
I think, as I told you, Boeing on 55%, Saudi on 25%, and there are other two partners, Saudi partners on the rest of the shares. With the help of, or actually with the strategic directives of the government of Saudi Arabia to build an aviation industry in the kingdom, and Boeing support to that initiative, we've been making money over the last, I would say, 4 years for the company. We are expanding. Now there are activities within the Ministry of Defense and the U.S. in terms of assembling some of the F-15 that Saudi Arabia has got in Salam facilities, and we are very
There's more
excited to
coming.
have. Yeah,
There's more coming.
Yeah, I know.
Some of the
Yeah.
new agreement.
it's good for the company.
Can you tell us a little bit about, as I said, that Saudia's growth has been intertwined with Boeing and building the market here in the Americas. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal experience with Saudi, and when did you first start? What's your background?
Well, it goes back to a long time ago.
Well, this is why it's interesting.
It's there was at that time, Saudi also had a strategic relationship with TWA in the old days, in the 60s and early 70s. So the management of Saudi at that time decided to build a program they called an air cadet training program, where they attract Saudi students just graduated from from middle high school, not even from high school. Then they put us on a 3-year program for the high school education, and that was in 1968.
No, sorry to interrupt. Did they find you? Did they recruit you to do it? You didn't apply. They came and said.
No, you apply and then they screen. Actually, at that time it was in 1968. They screened out of the whole kingdom 24 students to join that program.
Really?
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to be among them.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so we finished our high school, and then we were sent to the States in the 70s, where I had my BS degree and master degree from Santa Clara University in
Really?
California. Yeah.
That's terrific.
And then I went back and joined the airline first in the planning, commercial planning field, and the corporate planning. And then I moved to different areas within the operation and the services and the sales and the domestic and international. And then today I'm the CEO of the airline company.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know this, because Aramco is so closely associated with the American involvement early on, and being a big part of the development of Saudi Arabia, not only in the energy sector, but also sort of culturally.
Yeah.
It's interesting how deeply embedded TWA and other American organizations have been in Saudi. That's very interesting.
I think it's really, at that time, it played a major role in terms of, at the end of the day, interacting with company from different culture really bring positive results. It's not only you become adaptive to some of the procedures, and especially when you work in a global company like Saudi. An airline is run in Europe or in the Middle East or in the States. It's the same, basically the same rules, in terms of the commercial, the operational efficiency that we need within the organization. So that interaction really brought a lot of benefits to Saudi. Till it developed its own local capabilities, and at least in the management side of the company. However, in terms of pilots, in terms of mechanics, in terms of engineers, we still recruit till this day, American, European, Far Eastern to help us in terms of, because of the sheer facts of growth, you need that capability.
Is there, in terms of the SkyTeam relationship, when it was first introduced, it's actually, it happened, there were initial discussions around, when we were in Atlanta for our 2011 forum, there was a misunderstanding initially. Has things smoothed out? Is that everything you hoped it would be?
I think we have really constant contact with our colleagues in Delta, being the partner at SkyTeam. The issues are, we're trying to smooth some of the difficulties that both organizations are facing. We're still looking to see, a far stronger and strategic relationship in that.
So it's developing.
It is developing. It's developing. We actually would expect it to be at a much faster rate, but it is continuing and it's developing.
Well, just as an observer, I would think it would take time to work out some of this because it's the first of its kind in Saudia.
Well, Richard, to be honest with you, I think it's the issue is not between Saudi and Delta. It is something outside the control of the two companies, which sometimes you cannot really predict when it's gonna.
Absolutely, and you're exactly right. And that's, as I said, a misunderstanding about perception. So, but that's helpful to understand that.
And I think it's just, I wish the public will understand that at the end of the day, we have airlines implementing government rules, especially in terms of the movement of people and every government has its own regulation in terms of who comes in, when. As far as Saudi, we don't have any issue in terms of transporting any passenger, regardless of their religion, regardless of their race, as long as they have a valid visa entry to the country that we are carrying. So
exactly, Saudi or any private, any airline can't dictate diplomatic relations.
No, absolutely.
So you have to abide by it. Yes, that's understood.
Absolutely.
This was great. You're terrific.
Thanks. Thank you. No, really appreciate it and appreciate your organization role in terms of strengthening the relationship between, even though the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the USA, as we started discussing, not doing the aviation, it's a very strategic relationship. It goes back a long time, and the opportunity is really limitless.
A lot of what we do, and I appreciate that. Thank you, because we've worked hard at this, and we've built ourselves a very good platform and a good position. But a lot of what we do is exactly that. I mean, the relationship's important to Saudi Arabia. It's important to the U.S.
Absolutely.